Hi everybody, welcome to my tutorial in which we're building a web application in Clojure, and that web application is reactive because we're using OM, which is based on React.js. And in the last part, in the first part, we've started with our little contacts app, and today we're adding a feature that lets you edit the existing contacts. So in detail, this means we're at first going to create a new component that lets you edit a text, and it should work like when you click on that text, like for example an email address or a name, then the text should turn into an input view, and you should be able to alter the text within. And by pressing escape, you're going to cancel the editing process, and by pressing enter, it should be saved. Then we're of course integrating this new text view into our contacts view as we left it behind last time. And last but not least, we're doing some improvements on that editable text view. Like for example, selecting all the text when you switch into editing mode, and maybe a different mouse cursor when you hover over text that is editable, and things like these. Yeah, and last but not least, I hope you're having fun with it, and that it helps you to get your own application started at home. Just try. So let's get started right away. I've prepared the contacts app is still in a state, of course, like we left behind in the first part. I can start the wrapper right away, and what we're working on today is again just the ClojureScript, which is the core CLJS file. And to show you what we already have here is a simple app state that contains a key contacts, which in turn maps to a value that is an array of contact maps here, with each an ID, a name, and an email address. Then we have our contact view like we had it. Let's have a look at it. I'm going to connect my Emacs to the REPL that I've just started. And then I of course have to run the application. There we are. And then I can quit that window or leave it in the background. And when we're going to localhost port 10555, we see our simple view of the contacts that we have hard-coded in application state. Now at the moment nothing is happening when I click the text anywhere. The delete button is working. That's what we've done in part 1. So we can delete a contact. And now let's open up console already. And yeah, well, so once again, our aim is to let you click on, for example, Mike here, and when you click on it, then this text should turn into an input view with Mike in it, and so we can edit this text, and when we press enter, this should be stored, and when we press escape, then our editing should be discarded. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're defining like I said, a component. I'm editable text view, we call it. It gets passed a state, state, and the owner. And let's just start simple by replacing these two lines here. These are responsible for displaying Mike and Mike at mike.com, so name and email address, and we want these to be replaced by our new component. So what we're doing is simply implement the iRender protocol at first, and doing nothing but returning a div which so what we also have to pass in here is an option which is the state key, and what we do is state key within the state to get, for example, to our name or our email address. So let's try it. We're saying editable text view, we're saying the state is our contact, and we're saying the options are state key, and state key is in this case name. Okay, so now I've saved, and as you can see, the name is being displayed twice now, which is the first occurrence is from our new text view, and the second one is from the old stuff here, which I'm going to kick out now, and that leaves us with one instance. Doing the same for the mail address. Once again, contact, opts, and the state key is email in this case. Once again, kicking this one out, the old one, leaves us with the view as we've seen it before already, just that we've now used our editable text view. Maybe a word on this options stuff here. Well, the build function of OM allows you to pass some user-defined options into the renderer or into the view that you're calling, and the convention is to create a map with the keyword options or opts in here, and that opts should map to a value, which is again a map, and within that map you can do whatever you want. So what we're doing is we're creating a map with the state key as a key, and then the value for that is the name or the identifier for the key that we want to look up in our application state. So this name here gets bound to the symbol state key in our text view function. This syntax here is simple destructuring, which is Clojure native stuff. It basically says, hey, well, here you expect a map to be passed as third parameter into this function, and then look into that map and bind the value of state key to the symbol state key. So we have access to the value of state key via this symbol in here. Okay, but now we said we just don't just want this text to be displayed, we want it to be editable, and that is why we now start using another protocol which is called initsstate, and it has a single function to implement, which is initsstate, and we're returning some map here saying editable false. So what this does is, or basically a component can have component local state. So that's what we're doing with the initState stuff here. When the component gets created, it's being initialized with the state that we're returning here. So the map with the editable false is considered to be the component local state. So because we have 1, 2, 3, well actually 4 instances of these components, we have 8 instances of the component local state, each bound to its owner. Okay, so that's nice, but well, we can start. One thing we have to do is we have to switch this protocol from iRender to iRenderState, which is agnostic, or no, which knows about the component local state. And so the function is called renderState then, and we're doing some destructuring again, saying editable gets bound to this symbol. And then we can start doing something with editable. No, just editable. So let's say editable just for demonstration purposes. So when we're in the editing state, then the text should be hardwired to editable. And in any other case, we'll just see the value that we're bound to. Now, we don't have any means yet by which we can switch to the editable true state. That's what we're introducing right now. And for that, I'm just putting an on-click handler on the div that contains our text. And what we're saying now is set state, which is the function for altering component local state. And we're saying alter the state of owner, because that is, well, it's actually this, what you call this in other languages. And we're saying, hey, we want you to alter the state, the component local state of owner, and more specifically the value to which the keyword editable points. And we want it to be altered to the value true. So when we click now, or what should happen now is when we click one of the text labels here, it should alter the editable flag from false to true because of our on-click handler, and due to that it should now render a div with a hard text called editable. Yeah, and as you can see, that's what happens. It's not very useful, of course, but it's enough for demonstrating what we're going to. Yeah, so actually what we want here is not a simple div. We want in this editable case to get a input field, and that should have a value of, well, of course, let's start with binding it to state key of state, which is our name or our email address, depending on what we've passed in the opts map below. And when we click it now, it should turn into an input value, input field with the value of the current value of the contact. In this case, name, and here the email address. What we can see now is that I can type and try to type, and it doesn't do anything. That is because this here binds the value of that input field to the state, the application state of our contact. So this value will only change when our application state changes. We could do that by defining an onChange handler here. And whenever we type something, we want to update the application state, and specifically the value that is being referenced to by state key. Once again, either name or email. And we want it to be set to, and that's some ClojureScript magic, to the value of the target of our event, JavaScript event. So we are accessing here the JavaScript event, accessing the property target, and of that the property value, which is actually the value that's in that input field. And that now you can see we can type stuff. Well, the drawback on this is, let's just, to make this clear, let's just introduce a way how we can exit the editable state again. For that I am introducing a new event handler on key down, and what we are saying here is the key that has been pressed is the key property of the event. I think that's, and now we are going to do a case switch on that, and when we say enter, or let's start with escape. When it's escape, when we press escape, then we want to go back to editable false. And then finally I have to define a default action here for all the keys that don't match. So as you can see, when I now do this and I press escape, component owner. Okay, what I forgot here is owner. So I click on Jim and it turns into the input field 1, 2, 3, and now I press escape, and what you see is the value that I've typed in has been saved already to our contact, although I've pressed escape. So what this does here, the onChange, what we're doing in the onChange handler, is we're directly updating the application state. So that is for each key that's being pressed here, the application state gets updated immediately. We could no, that's too complicated right now, but we actually don't, I don't like this too much, because you want to have the chance to cancel your editing. Like when I'm pressing escape now, I expect it to be the old value again and not the stuff that I've typed. But to do this, we have to introduce some temporary state. We're just introducing a temp value component local state here. Then we have to extend this temp value, and then we are binding the value to temp value, and well, actually so the goal here is to not update the app state when a key has been pressed, or onChange you could say, but what I want to do is instead is update the component local state with the value. What have I done now? State set. Yeah, set state, of course. Like this. And so what's going to happen? I think one thing is missing. Yeah, this is being empty now. That is because we have now to initialize the temp value with the current value of our state. So now what we see, I can do stuff here, and when I press escape, it's still the old value. Now to make this clear, let's just do a reload, and I press escape, and it's still the old value. Okay, so that's leading into the right direction, I think. Now we need a method how we can actually store the value, and we'll do that by saying, hey, when you press enter, well, actually what I'd like to do here is to make this less complicated. I'd like to introduce some state local or some local functions here, like for example we have a cancel operation, we have a save operation, and we have a edit operation, which is the action that's being or yeah, let's call it change. That's actually the onChange handler then, and it's simply to the set state in here on the owner local state, and I update the temp value with the value of the target of our event. In cancel, we're just updating the component local state and setting the editable flag to false. And for the save, we're just doing one more thing, which is, no, that's wrong. I have to do update because I want to update the application state now. I want to say I am updating the state key within the application state, and I'm setting it to a new value, which is temp value. And then we're also setting our component back to editable false. So that means this can be replaced by change. This, when we press escape, this can be replaced by a call to cancel. And enter, when we press enter, it means save. Okay, let's have a look. I'm typing something, pressing escape, and that means the new value gets discarded, and we're reverting back to the old value. And now when I press enter, it gets saved. Great. Looks like it's working. Escape. Enter. Awesome. Well, that is basically already the functionality that we need. A few things that were disturbing me. First of all, maybe you want to have a certain feedback, or to let the user know intuitively which text can be altered and which not. So you probably want to put some style on these labels here on the text, and you can simply do this by saying no. Oops. by saying, for example, style JS text decoration underline. Doesn't work. Because I have a typo here. Text decoration underline. Okay, so that's the first thing, and the next or the other thing is I want the mouse cursor to be, for example, I don't know, pointer when hovering over it. So okay, that looks more like, well, it actually looks like a link. Maybe you have to think of something better than that, but just to demonstrate this. Another thing that I don't like yet is when you click on it, then the focus is not in that input field. That's not too nice. Actually, how can we do this is, and it was rather complicated. We have to implement another protocol here. I did update, I think that was. And let's have a look at the documentation, because I don't really remember. I did update. Again, yeah. So what we get passed is the application state as it has been before the update, and the application or the component local state as it has been before the update. So we are interested in the component state, or yeah, we can destructure it again, because what we are interested in is editable. So what we want to do is, whenever we transition from the not editable state into the editable state, we want the focus to be set into this input box, and also we want the text to be selected. So what we're checking here is when, remember this is the previous state, so whenever this one here is not editable, then we want, let me think, what do we need to do? We have to get the node, the HTML node of the owner, and we want to say, we want to call the focus method on it. Okay, that's working as it seems, because when I click it now, it gets the focus. What we're missing is the selection, and we want it to be set selection range, I think that is, of node from 0 to, I don't know, length of temp value. Oops. So length is wrong. Count. Yeah. and that's not working. Set selection range. What is the problem here? Okay, so the problem is that calculation of so maybe I have to get the real state here. State key and state like this. Yeah, great. Okay, another thing is that you can click and click and click and they don't get reverted to the non-editable state. So we probably also want to implement the onBlur handler, and we want to, well, actually we don't even have to, we just want this to be handled as a cancel. So when we click do something and click away, then we want our new value to get discarded. Yeah. And I press enter, it gets saved. Okay, yeah. Okay. I think that is quite nice. One thing is the errors here are obviously appearing when I save something. I don't remember how I fixed this. Okay, so to get rid of this error below there when we are saving something is we can fix this by just checking the current state over here also. Not just this one, but also and get state owner editable. So when the previous state has been editable, not editable, and the current state is editable, then we want to do the focus and the selection. That's what we need, yeah. So now the error is also gone, and that seems to be working fine now. Let's reload the stuff. Escape cancels it. Going away cancels it. Pressing enter saves it. Okay. Great. I think that is a nice component that we've built. And that's quite reusable because you can just plug it into anywhere you want. For whenever you need to have some text being displayed and you want to give the user the option to alter it without worrying about anything else from that point. I think that's it for now. The next time, well, I'm not quite sure yet, maybe we'll be covering the addition of new contacts, although I think it is quite similar to this editing stuff. Or maybe I'll decide that we're going to insert some server communication into our application. That would be interesting. And for today, goodbye and have fun trying stuff yourself. Thanks for watching.